All right, Nick, let's talk about the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders are a team in free agency. They've made a lot of really, really smart signings. I don't think maybe they're at the peak of any of those. They're not like trading for the Jalen Ramseys of the world, not trading for the number one overall pick, but they've made some really, really crucial moves, I think, replacing key players and making really nice additions to this roster.
Yeah, Miles, I think it's an interesting report you got about the Raiders and what they could be doing going forward. But before we get into that, Vegas fans, Raider Nation, we want to hear from you guys in the comment section below. We're talking a lot about the Raiders' moves this offseason, some guys they brought into the fold. But give us one Las Vegas Raider that's no longer a Raider, a guy who played, whether it was last season, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, some former Raider that ended up leaving the organization that you really wished had kind of the Raider that got away, if you will. Give us that guy in the comment section below. All right, Miles, what you got? What's going on in Las Vegas?
Yeah, Nick. And one Raider that got away this offseason was that of star tight end Darren Waller. They moved off of Waller. And when you move off a guy like Waller, there's a large hole in your offense that you need to repair, especially when you have a quarterback like Jimmy G, who had the George Kittles of the world. He's used to having a top tier tight end come and fill in. And now, I'm not saying the Raiders have gotten a magical top tier tight end out of nowhere, but what they did was make a really smart move in signing Texans tight end OJ Howard. And I think this is something that can potentially shore up a weakness on this roster in the absence of Waller. Because Howard, he has the physical tools. He has the ability to be really good. A former first round pick. He was productive in Tampa Bay. He's kind of dwindled a little bit, but he hasn't had the, quarterbacking as like a guy like Jimmy G would be able to give him. I think he's a really key guy here and a little bit of upgrade over a guy like Foster Moreau or somebody like that. So I think this is a good move for the Texans to replace Darren Waller the best way that they can. I think they made a really smart signing here, Nick. What do you think about the OJ Howard signing?
So there's a theory that's going around in football right now. They call it the one football theory. It's kind of simple, is that when you have a team and you've got a couple elite players already on that team, a couple elite offensive playmakers, there's only one football to share. It's more common in basketball, right? When you got one or two superstar scores, there's only one basketball. And sometimes you have too many scores. You just can't, the team doesn't work right because you got too many guys trying to score, too many guys that need to get touches. The Raiders are kind of in that boat, right? They have Josh Jacobs, the NFL leading rusher last season, coming back on the franchise tag now for the Raiders. He's going to be 35% of their offense. They have Devontae Adams, future Hall of Famer, in my opinion, arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL. He's going to be another 25-30% of their offense. And then you've got your third down guy machine, the short passes, the third and fives, keep the chains moving, red zone guy, and Hunter Renfrow. He's going to be another 10-15% of your offense. So with that all, if you added that all up, that's 80-90% of your offense already allocated. Why would you have so much money and time around a guy like Darren Waller? Great athlete, great player in his own right when healthy. He's had health issues, but you don't want to invest so much cap space and so much attention on a guy who's only going to be less than, maybe 10% of your offense. Maybe. He only had 28 catches last season. I know he was hurt, but still, right? This is a guy that's not as active as he, needs to be in this offense just because the Raiders have other playmakers. So when you're in that situation, what do? You go out and get athletic specimens that have the ability to kind of create matchup problems, create big plays. Because remember, they're not going to be the focal point of your offense. They're not going to get 6-7 targets a game. They're not going to catch 50 balls a season. They're there just to see if they have, hey, this week we've got a red zone matchup we like, or hey, we've got a coverage that we think this guy's athletic tools can beat. And that's what OJ Howard can do, right? Then he's got all the physical tools in the world. He has the ability to dominate those kind of matchups when they present himself. He's not a guy that's going to catch 80 balls for you, but he's a guy who can win key matchups in certain situations. And that's exactly what Ziegler, McDaniels, and company are doing here with some of these moves. I love the Keelan Cole signing for much of the same reason. Keelan Cole's a guy, very nice receiver, underrated player in my book. He's a really good number 3/number 4 receiver guy. And that's kind of what he's going to be with the Raiders, because look at the Raiders want to run the ball with Jacobs. Devontae Adams is going to get a lot of targets. Hunter Renfrow is going to get a lot of targets. So you got Cole as a guy who can take advantage of maybe some really favorable one-on-one matchups. Maybe he gets to play against the team's 4th, 5th corner and he gets to just run all over him and catch, a few key balls in key situations late in games. And that's exactly what the Raiders are doing here, right? Because they have so much resources. Tying in Devonta Adams because he's spectacular. They have so much resources and energy tying into Josh Jacobs because he's spectacular. You don't want to have to worry about, well, how do I get Darren Waller involved in the game when they'll hurt getting Devonta Adams in the game. That was a problem, I think, with the Raiders faced last offseason and at times last season. I think moving on from Waller, getting a third-round pick for him was awesome, and then replacing him with a guy like O.J. Howard, an athletic, talented tight end who can just, in those spot moments, make those kind of big plays, is a really smart move by the Raiders. People aren't really noticing it, but I think this is actually one of the smarter moves by any team in the AFC this offseason. I think it's a really great job by Ziegler and company.